Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
And welcome to a victorious night here on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott, and yes, my Oilers won tonight. So you get the best of me tonight. No mumbling and drumbling, no depression or anxiety or why me. No, tonight is victorious. Victorious. Britt Elders is here. We're going to get into some UFOs, alien contact, talking with Pleiadians. Yeah, we're going to turn up the woo for this one. Dirty Filth is here with another great cartoon. And all of you are here as well. And that just makes it so much more fun. We have Race Fan in the gold medal position, SJ with a silver, Michael Fontaine with a bronze medal tonight. Hi, Robert Lamoth, Dino Bravo, Michael Morris, and Joanne. Welcome to the show tonight. Thank you for being in our chat room. Chris 716, Karen in the Woo Train, Brown Dwarf, and Lee the Bee. Nice to see you all. Rugged Source is back. Rugged Source will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Christy Abels, Tim in the Backwoods, Cosmic Joe, Eric Austin, Paul Demon, Alex T. Welcome to SOR Chat. How y'all doing? Captain K-Rod, what is happening? Good to see you. Dragonfly, S for Bet, Major Lee. Nice to have you all here. Abbott Hoffman, Rough Rider, who wears a watermelon on the best of his days, on top of his head, that is. Yeah, them Saskatchewan fans. They're just weird people. Operation Shutdown, how you doing? Flat Six, Richard Steele, purple-haired Pixie Lara, nice to see you. Hi, Rich Buddy. Millennium, my man, give us an update on how the mullet is looking. We'd really appreciate that. Thunderhead and Skip to Malou, nice to see you. Glenn John McEnroe, the pride of Wimbledon, how you doing? And Daniela, welcome back. And who else do we have here? Eternity Eternal. Tim Mothman in his goatee, two separate entities. Thomas Rock, thank you for coming on in. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Hi, Digger Dog and Richard Elmore. Al Garay over on Twitch. Yep. Did 600 sit-ups today in 35 minutes just to prepare for tonight's show. Rain, how you doing? Rain will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Hi, Lee the Bee, again. W. David Page, Pam Harris, thank you for coming on in. And who else do we have up next? Chris Robson, good to see you. Welcome to SOR Chat. Ayumi Doll, it's been a while. How you doing? Nice to see you back. Kitty Cat Whack, how you doing? Welcome. Kurt M., Ozzy, Woo Poo, nice to see you all. As we scroll on down, and we are in the middle of roll call here. Yeah, tonight's going to be a good show, a really good show. Brit Elders has like amazing hair, people. You will see it here in a minute. It's got like that 50s, 60s style. It's just beautiful, beautiful. And she got the smile to go along with it. I'm telling you, I'm a little flush right now, a little flush. Aloha, Dave. How you doing? Welcome. And Daniela freaking out about aliens in our chat room. That's always good. Don't forget to bring the nachos and extra cheese, Daniela. Yeah. A little bit of salsa on the side, too. Maybe some sour cream. Perfect. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us as we prepare to have Britt Elders on the show talking about Pleiadians, UFOs, ET contact. We're going to have a lot of fun with her tonight as Bill WD-40 has officially joined the chat room, which means he is lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth, people. You don't want that rigidness. Never feels good. Little bit of WD-40 from Bill, and we just slide right into this program, and it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's continue with our roll call here. Paisley Parker, good to see you. And Cindy, how you doing? Red Foreman, been a while. Good to have you back. Mike Rivers, thank you for coming on in. And who else do we have here? Let's take a little peeky poo here. Destiny Rocks, how are you? Thank you for coming on in. All right, everybody, it's almost that time. Super Chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do. Our store is open on our website. We do not have ugly swag, people. Do me a favor. Hi, Zoria. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Yeah, I hope you have a lot of tinfoil with you tonight. You may need it after this one as we're getting into UFOs, aliens, alien contact. Britt Elders is here from ShirleyMacLaine.com to talk about all of this. And then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton is back with another weird story. Nicole Sackich fills in on UFO Court for Courtney Marcassani, who's making her way down to contact in the desert. All right, we got a great show for you here. Britt Elders is an investigative author and documentary filmmaker who has traveled the world exploring a variety of topics, including the mysterious world of UFOs. She has participated in several in-depth investigations, including Billy Meier and the waves of UFO sightings in Mexico, which began in 1991 and continue to today. The CEO of ShirleyMacLaine.com, Britt continues to research and write for herself and others about this mysterious and fascinating topic. Let's get right to it. First time on Spaced Out Radio, Britt Elders, thank you so much for coming on in. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. That was a great lead-in. I love it.
Well, you know, we try and make people comfortable here. You know, if you were in
good.
studio, you have a nice lounge chair, a fridge with beverages in it. You know, you can put your feet up and play some video if you wanted. You know, meet with aliens. You can do whatever. That's what we do around here.
That sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
I want to ask you, you know, as people start to tune into this show, going back in time a little bit, how did you get involved with the UFO story?
Well, with this particular story, the Pleiadian case, a friend of ours came to us. His name was Lieutenant Colonel Wendell C. Stevens. He was a retired lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force. And he brought in some photographs that when we looked at them, we said, they're too good to be true. They're just too good, period. And we sort of thought, well, that's interesting. Wonder how he did it, and set it aside. At that time, we had a company called Intercept, and its primary design was to prevent Fortune 500s and banks, financial institutions from being eavesdropped and wiretapped. So we had a reputation that we had really worked hard for. We didn't just lay it out there for UFOs. This was the 70s. UFO was a taboo subject. People didn't talk about it. It's not like today. And so we backed off of the case. In the meantime, Wendell went over and he met with Billy Meier. He came back and he says, you have to get involved with this because we had an investigative background. That's what he thought this case needed. So we had some business over in London. We decided to take a side trip all the way over to Switzerland, a short hop, and meet with Meyer. We figured that within a day we'd figure out how he was doing it, but we couldn't. We were there 5 days. And when we left, we ended up bringing back movie footage, still photographs, audio recordings of the craft, and metal samples from the craft. So we had just so much evidence at that point, we had to figure out what to do with it. We started out by going to Dr. Michael Malin down at the University of Arizona, and he's been in charge of a lot of different projects for NASA and for JPL, does a lot of photogrammetric work. We let him take it and digitize photographs because that way we could determine how big the object was and if it had any unusual edges. Well, he decided it was about 21 feet in diameter, and there was nothing he could find when he digitized them that said it was a hoax. So we were off and running from there. It was a 7-year investigation from that point on.
Wow. And when you got started in this, did you believe in UFOs? Did you believe that there was some sort of phenomenon out there that was mysterious to humanity?
Well, I was really fortunate because my dad was literally a rocket engineer. He worked with von Braun on the very early missile projects. And as a kid, I remember he and his buddies talking about what they had seen when they were at White Sands and when they were at these other places. When they would launch a missile that would, go up and turn around, come straight back down. Yeah, there were things that were hovering, watching what they were doing. And they were told to lay down and put their heads down and put their hands over their head. So I kind of had an understanding as a kid there were other things out there. What they were, I didn't know. So when this happened, I was probably less shocked than the rest of the team. My husband was a very left-brained, analytical, true blue investigator. And our associate, Tom Welch, his father was an FBI agent, so he had that same kind of mindset. And for me, I thought it was really interesting that we were over there doing this, and they were at the same time trying to figure out how he did it, how he hoaxed it. But back in the 70s, we didn't have computers, personal computers, laptops, anything like that had not come along yet. We didn't have cell phones that could take wonderful pictures. Billy Meier was using a 35 millimeter camera that he could operate with one hand because he only had one arm. He was using an 8 millimeter camera that he could manage to get on a tripod and push the play button or the record button to get his movie footage. So those types of things is what we had to look at. We had very raw footage to deal with and very limited technology at that time.
Yeah, and it made it more difficult for the investigators. I don't even know how you guys did it back then. I came in when I got into radio journalism. I got in right at the start when the internet was, a couple years old, really starting to take off. And,
Uh-huh.
we were using it on a daily basis. And I remember asking my boss back then, I said, what did you guys do before that? He goes, literally, we would have to call every single press box to get updated scores.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
I know. Everything is so easy now compared to what it was then.
Amazing. Just amazing. As you started to delve deeper and deeper into this topic of UFOs, you have never been an experiencer yourself, have you?
I have not been an experiencer. I have seen craft in many places in the world. I have experienced unusual phenomena that I cannot rationally explain. But I have never been an experiencer. I've never been abducted. I've never been contacted. I have talked to hundreds of people that have. Um, for me, once we got into the Meier case, I just wanted more and more and more information. I wanted to learn from it. And I think that's something that's missing right now in the overall aspect of what's going on in the field is we're not learning enough from it. There's not a place where we can go and correlate different cases and see how they either are very similar or very different, and what can be taken from that so that we can further our knowledge, not just as an investigator, but as people that are curious. And we should be curious right now. There's so much happening in the world, much of it we're not even aware of. And that to me is really sad because it's a phenomena that is real. It's happening. It's not just happening to Billy Meier, but other people are having experiences. And like I said, I've seen craft all over the world. We've had film crews with us from Japan. We worked with sightings quite a bit. We took them to Mexico and they got their own footage. So different groups have sort of poo-pooed the whole concept of either you have to be a military pilot to see one of these or it's such a rare occurrence, but it's not. It's really out there all over the world, and we just have to be aware of it. We got to look up every now and then and just see what's going on outside of our normal little vision that is occupied by electronics.
From all the people you have talked to over the
Mhm.
years about this subject, what have you learned about not only the subject but yourself as
Yeah.
you've investigated this deeper?
Wow. I think the biggest thing I've learned about myself is to not be judgmental of anyone because everybody has their own take on things and their own experience informs how they view things. So I think it's better to listen, to actually hear what they're saying, and to get out of the way of the things we put in front of ourselves, which is usually judgment and not very fair to ourselves or to anyone else. Um, as far as what's happening out there, it's really remarkable. There are so many things around the world. There's a young man in Italy that he will get an impression to get to his skylight, open the skylight, and take footage, and he's getting some remarkable images. In Mexico, they like to go gather on a hill called Casita Blanca outside Puebla, and they bring the entire family in a picnic basket and wait for the UFOs to come in. So we have a slightly different view up here in the northern part of the states. It just is different when you travel around the rest of the world. They're much more open to this.
Why is it that it is that way? Why in North America do we have such a hard time accepting that this phenomena could be real?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Um, I don't know if it stems from the dogmas and the doctrines we've grown up with. I think that has a lot to do with it. I think a lot of it is that we have been basically inculcated with fear. Be afraid of anything you don't know. And in that, we just have a tendency to not want to learn about the things we don't know, and we should be learning about them. I think fear has a tremendous impact on people of how they respond to whether it's UFOs or Bigfoot or spirits or ghosts or channeling anything. Just as I said that, your foot flashed. Um, it's something we should be learning from, and I can't stress that enough because we're ignoring it. But here, especially in the States, I think even more here than in Canada, we are a country that's basically afraid right now. And we really don't know what we're afraid of, but we think it's a good thing to be afraid.
Up here in Canada, the running joke is if we don't talk about it, it doesn't happen or it doesn't exist. So the fact that our
It goes
government
away.
really hasn't discussed anything about it, uh, nobody brings it up. And it's funny because I have done a lot of interviews around Canada. And outside of my home station at Saga 960, where we broadcast this show in Mississauga, Ontario, not one Canadian journalist or radio show host has asked me the question, is this happening in Canada as well?
Oh my gosh.
They all want to know what's happening in the United States, but they never follow it up with, is it happening in Canada too?
Oh.
And I find that very interesting. And I try and take the conversation there, but immediately I get cut off and brought back to where we are, which is talking about UFOs in the US.
Yeah, that's not fair because there's so much happening in Canada. I know up in some of the realms around Prince George, Vancouver's had a lot of sightings. I have several friends up there that have seen and recorded things. Winnipeg, I mean, that place, as flat as it is, and I've been up there, it has quite a few things floating around out there that people see and talk about. So there's so much. And Paul Hellyer, he came out very staunchly supporting the fact that UFOs exist. And he was a member of parliament and all of that. It's a great guy, but not strong enough, I think, in Canada. He got more involved with what was happening in the States. And I truly wish people wouldn't look just to the States for what the answers might be out there, because we're still taking baby steps in that direction. When our government puts a little tic-tac video out and says, oh, this is all we have, or we can identify what your reports are, it's not enough. There's so much out there, and it's happening everywhere.
But I think the reason why we all look to the US, and I'm saying this as a foreigner, is because we know you guys have all the good toys.
Yeah.
You got all the good toys and everything, whether it's race cars, whether it's the military, whether it's hiding UFOs and aliens, whether it's Disneyland, whether it's the Tex-Mex cuisine in San Antonio, Texas, of course, of Washington State. You have everything, and you have all the toys. And I mean that as a grand compliment when I say that, because I love the United States. Love it, love it, love it.
I do too.
But I will say this, everybody looks to you as a world leader. And that's the reason why everybody's not really taking the lead. Now, Canada may start to take that lead later this fall when their Sky Canada UFO report comes out at the end of summer, early fall. We're going to see what happens, because they're not going along with threat narrative. They're going on with a scientific discovery. And when that happens, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out and what is truly going on from Dr. Mona Niemer and her staff. So that may change the game a little bit, or add to it, maybe add a little bit more drama, and we're going to see where it goes. But I think it's because everybody looks to the Americans for everything.
Right.
Everything.
But we're not doing it right now. We're still, like I said, taking baby steps, unfortunately. I was really looking forward to the fact that the government set up this program where you could call and report your sightings. And I thought maybe, just maybe, it's going to work where people can actually make a report and then use that information to correlate and learn from. No. Instead, what happened is the government came back and said, well, most of these we can explain. And they dropped it at that point. We're not taking it far enough, and we need to. When the government of Mexico is actually entertaining the concept of becoming the first country to openly admit UFOs exist, and extraterrestrial life does too, that says a lot. And we're falling behind in that area. Now, granted, it's a political season and all of that, but it's something we shouldn't fall behind in. It's something that when other countries are taking the lead in this, an example, years ago, when it was still a taboo subject, China came out with a magazine that was literally published by the government talking about sightings all through their country. That was wonderful, but we never heard anything about it here. We need to be hearing more from all over the world, not just the US, so that everybody's on an equal playing field and can get the information that they need for whatever growth and development they're going through. And it's all different. Everybody is relating to things at their own pace and their own speed. But if you have the information available, it makes a big difference. That's why I love the show you've got going. It's really great. You cover many, many subjects. Very important to think about. And we've got to start thinking about things.
Well, I think we need to start thinking about things too. And slowly but surely, people are still starting to open up. I think most people, though, still have a little bit of an embarrassment to
Yeah.
talk about what they saw. Because even in my own community, which is only about 2,000 strong,
Uh-huh.
when I walk around, because people know me, I do the ghost tour at the local museum and everything like that. People walk around and they're like, "Oh, you're that guy for the ghost tour. Do you really believe in that stuff?" Well, yes, I do. And in fact, to really screw you up, I go chase Bigfoot in the forest too,
I love it.
right? And they laugh and they go, "Really?" And then you get that, well, I did have this one thing happen.
Exactly.
Everybody has that story, that one story that they cannot explain. And they finally, whether it's you, me, anybody in our audience listening who believes or has experience, they finally have somebody who will listen to them
Yeah.
without laughing at them. And I do see that happening more and more with that conversation.
Yeah, that's why I said I've managed to lose judgment on anyone's story. I think it's so important that people have that comfort level and people like you, and I get it too, when they find out that, we've got this book out on UFOs, they quietly kind of pull you aside and, do you really think they're real? It's almost a whisper, but not quite. It's not as bad as it used to be. And then as soon as you say yes, they open up. They've had an experience or their friend had an experience and they say, what do we do with it? What happens? Who do we tell? Who can we talk to about this? And that's going back to what I said. That's what we're missing. We're missing a repository for all of this information. So it isn't just a story that a few people hear, but it can be something everybody hears. And that's why programs like yours are so important.
Well, as long as we're all doing the job in order to try and make this a normal part of conversation. I
Right.
realize it's an abnormal topic, but that's okay. It's allowed to, we're all allowed to be a little weirdo sometimes.
Kooky, I think, is a word that's used.
Well, it makes life fun when you can be a weirdo, and I have no problem admitting that. And I'll tell you though, in my experience, as we got about under a minute to go here before we go to break, Brett,
Okay.
I think people want to be strange. They want to have that encounter. They want to see that UFO
I
or the Bigfoot or have that ghostly contact.
I agree, and that's why I said we gotta look up more. We have gotta be more aware of what's out there, and you can't do it if you're always looking down and in your phone.
Right? That's exactly it. On that note, Britt, I'm going to get you to hold on right there
Okay.
because we are going to get ready to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Our guest tonight is this awesome guest. Britt Elders is her name, and she is part of ShirleyMacLaine.com. She has her own books out. She has her own investigative documentary films out. We highly suggest you check them on out. And when we come back, we're going to get into what it's like to talk to aliens, Pleiadians, the people she's interviewed about this incredible off-world conversation. This is Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We will be right back, everybody. Stay tuned. All right, we are back, and we are on our first break here. All
That's
right,
fun. I love what you do.
well, thank you. I love what I do too.
I
And let's
think it's great.
say hello to Xochitl Paez Richards. I still think you should have hyphenated the name before you married Mr. Richards. Just saying, because Xochitl Paez is fun to say. Foxy Joe, thank you for kicking off the super chat. Very much appreciate your love and support. And let's see who else is snuck in here without me seeing. Who is the dirty rascal who did that? Witchy, how are you? There he is, Witchy from New Zealand. Hope you're having. Hey, Witchy, am I alive tomorrow? You're in the future. Let me know. Am I alive tomorrow? I'd appreciate it. Oob to Joe's Maine. You've got aliens. And let's see here. Let's see. We're going to wait for Witchy's answer here. Come on, Witchy. Need to know this. Oh, there it is. There it is right there. Sure am, Dave. Good news. Made it another one. Made it another one.
That's good.
Nina Williams, how are you? You know what would really suck? You're a sports fan, so you'll understand this.
Yeah.
If your team is, say, going into Game 7, okay, and right before Game 7 you die, and you don't know if your team won.
Oh, gosh. Well, I think you would know because I think your spirit would be hanging out with the team anyway.
Well, I understand with what you're saying, okay, spirit-wise, but there is that what-if possibility. Like, that would be the absolute worst, man. Like, going into Game 7, you're pumped up for it. You got your Cheetos already lying on your chest. You got your favorite beverages within reaching distance. And all of a sudden, God pulls the plug on you right then and says, hey, you're done. It's like, you're like, it's Game 7. What are you doing here, God? Like, come on. Game 7. You could have gave me at least 3 hours here.
Yeah, and then take me.
Exactly. Oh, that's something that would happen to me. That is something now.
No, don't put that out there. You don't need that. You want to be there for Game 7.
When I'm there, like 85, 90 years old, I know I'm going to check out sometime between then because I've been told by Spirit. Okay. But I'll tell you, I'll really tell you, I would be pissed off.
Yeah,
I would.
You would.
Yeah,
especially if it was going to be a close game and you knew it. Yeah,
absolutely. Hello to Paul Demon. We're tied at 2, buddy. Tied at 2. You got your ass kicked tonight, okay? You got your ass kicked tonight. Hello, lovely and talented Kira. How are you? Your hair looks fantastic tonight, by the way, Kira. River Morris, how you doing? And who else is joining us here? Who else is snuck in? Good point, Sasquatch Gee. You could win Game 7, Dave, by interfering as a ghost. Very good point. You know what? Because in playoffs, if you're not cheating, you're not winning. Okay?
No.
Oh, yeah. If you're not punching somebody in the head or sticking them in the throat or between the legs, you're not winning. Hi, W. Decker. How you doing? Give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to open up my window here. There we go. And a nice breeze going through here. It's a little warm after that victory tonight. Diaz, how are you? Enrique, what's happening, my man? All right. We got about 1 minute here. Uno momento. A few years ago, before I got this window changed in my house, I had a window that kind of opened to the side, so it was flat. And it would open this way. And all of a sudden, I heard some scurrying by my window, and something hit my window and ran right underneath. I don't know what it was to this day. I'm not sure if it was a fox or a rabbit or a gnome. I don't know. Just scared the hell out of me.
And noises in the middle of the night here are usually raccoons.
Oh, we don't have raccoons up here. They're slowly starting to come in. Hi, Jessica
Oh.
McCreary. How are you? All right, we have 20 seconds. A big thank you once again for Foxy Joe kicking off the super chat tonight. Very much appreciate it. T-Bone, I know you're listening. Get your butt in the chat room. We need you here, man. We need you here. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Here we go. Here we go, the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. I want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Britt Elders is here. She's author, researcher, documentarian looking into the world of UFOs and ET contact. Thank you, Britt, for being here. Her website, ShirleyMacLaine.com. Good to have you here, Britt. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all actually Shirley's site. I'm the CEO of her website, and I have my own site, which is BritElders.com.
Okay. BritElders.com. BritElders.com, people.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. All right. What's it like to talk to aliens? You've interviewed a few people who had these situations.
It depends on the kind of experience they've had. But with Billy Meier, when he first met with this person from the Pleiades, who happened to be female, because she told him that men are much more responsive to females than they are to men. So she was sent in first. Her name was Samyasa. She said that the biggest reason that they were here and talking to him was to let humans know we need to realize we are not the only thinking beings in the universe. This is back in 1975. I think it still holds true today. But so many of the things that they're saying are about what we do with the planet, how we had a problem with the ozone. They told him that back in 75 as well. And it was just becoming known at that time. And they said, but it can be cured, and it's cured by taking some of the gases out. And you'll find that the hole naturally contracts and expands, which they're finding now to be very true. But so many different things and different people that are talking to different groups of extraterrestrials are getting different information, but it's all basically the same. And it's something about how we on Earth have to realize we're not alone, have to realize there are many, many cultures out there, and that we have got to start understanding that we can't take the garbage, literal as well as the sort of figurative garbage, into space when we go, because we're planning on going to Mars now, and we're setting up new missions for the moon. And then after that, we're going out into the universe. We cannot take the anger, the fear, the greed that we seem to really enjoy on this planet. We have to learn to outgrow it so we don't carry it with us out there, because we're going to have to deal with people that don't utilize those emotions and those base issues anymore. And that's a big deal for many, many of the contactees.
The message is always seeming to be the same, whether it's Greys, Pleiadians, Arcturians, Andromedans, Anunnaki,
Right.
Blues Clues, whatever the species may be.
Right.
It's always about the planet. It's always about cleaning up. It's always about being more healthy, making more loving choices. It's always about greed. It's almost like it's part of the 7 deadly sins that they keep warning us.
I think you're right. It's something about raising our vibrations. And I think when you talk to people about this on a one-on-one basis, usually, they're in the same mindset. They want to be a better person. How do they go about being a better person? And no one is really giving, that I've come across from an extraterrestrial standpoint, is giving a how-to manual. They're just saying you do it. You created the problem, you fix the problem, and you go from there. So that's something that right now I think we have to look at a little bit differently, and we have to take a little more responsibility for ourselves when things like that occur. And yes, it's a message that is coming from all of them. We've got to get in touch with our inner selves, our better selves, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. But we can all be better people, and we should all strive for that. But at the same time, we live in a physical world, and we've got to be realistic with that. And one of the things the Pleiadians said is we have to learn to balance our material world, the thump on it world we live in, and you've got to balance that more harmonious side of what people call spirituality or the metaphysical side of life. We need to learn to balance those two aspects of ourselves. If we do that, and if we do it in a way that isn't detrimental to either side, we can get out there in the universe and work with these others much quicker than we are right now set to go.
As the Pleiadians come here and
Mhm.
other alien species come here, we don't know how long they've been here. We don't know how many humanities they have gone through, prior to the great floods, prior to,
Right.
the planet, whether you believe in creation or evolution,
Yeah.
there was a start to the planet. What was it like around Egyptian times or Atlantis or
Yeah.
anything? They never seem to have that conversation. They
Oh, but
always
they did with Billy. They did tell him that they are one of the groups that seeded this planet. They actually told him, our forefathers are your forefathers. So they were here and helped seed this planet. Much like many other civilizations, when you get into indigenous peoples all around the world, they have links to various civilizations that they feel helped bring their culture about and that seeded their particular culture. So that's something that they did get into with Billy. They said they're about 3,000 years advanced in many areas, 300 years advanced in other areas, but that they have been here since the beginning. And they talked about the biblical stories. Some are stories, some have veracity, but not necessarily the way that they're taken verbatim quite often. And they talked about all of the things that happened in different cultures. And they said you can look to each culture, and each has a connection to a star, to a system. And that is the system that in their mythology, in their legends, in their oral histories, they talk about how important these star beings were that came in because they taught them something. They taught them how to be better farmers. They taught them how to make incredible observatories. They taught them how to figure out what seasons would be best for planting or what seasons they could utilize the soil to its fullest. Things like that, things that a basic beginning society would need. And this is what many, many indigenous cultures talk about.
Britt Elders is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. A lot of the contact that you have covered is through Billy Meier, who is a
Right.
highly controversial
Yeah.
figure in the UFO world. There are many people who dote on his every word, and just as many who are just as critical about this.
Right.
First off, for our audience members who may not know who Billy Meier is, fill us in on him.
Okay. Billy Meier is a Swiss farmer. He's basically, in my opinion, a very humble man. He has one arm. He lost one arm in a bus accident. He's a very open, giving, earthy kind of man. He is a farmer and he is a man of the earth in his whole being. His energy is so grounded. He began having contacts with Pleiadians in 1975, and that series of contacts was about providing physical evidence to support his claims of contact. That's why there were photographs and movie footage and metal samples and the audio recordings, plus hundreds of witnesses. We took 7 years, investigated it all, and at no time could a scientist, or did a scientist, tell us, I can duplicate this or I know how it's been faked. That never happened. And we were using labs like Scripps Institute, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, IBM. We were all over the place using individuals that have a lot of alphabets behind their name and were experts in their field. We knew we didn't have the capability to look at a photograph and say, oh, this is this or this is that. So we took it to like Robert Post, who was the head of photo analysis at JPL. And he said, I don't know what it is, and I don't know how it could have been made. I don't mind him saying he doesn't know what it is, because none of us really did. But for him to say, I don't know how this was created, this image doesn't have anything that shows anything fake in it, that says a lot to me. And it was comments like that that kept us going on the investigation. The metal was so unique because it had a metal structure, a crystalline structure, and a metal structure right next to the crystalline. So it was like a sandwich. But it was a cold fusion process, which we didn't have in 1975. We melted metal and poured it. And Meier had metal that was done in a cold fusion process. Plus, it had thulium in it. And thulium is a rare earth element that's very, very costly to extract and difficult to find. So how would a farmer know to put thulium, and how would he get it to put it into this metal? So we were constantly running into things like that. Meier's contacts went on for, a period of 11 years with Samyasa. And they were all about various things around the farm, Meier himself, his development, plus conversations about what their life was like, where they lived on the planet of Era in the Pleiades, what they felt was necessary for us to do to mature as an Earth culture, as Earth humans, different things like that. And the contacts were quite profound, quite controversial. And that's okay. The controversy doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I think it spurred our investigation quite a bit, because when people started coming out and saying, oh, this is fake. Okay, well, tell us how you know it's fake. Tell us how you did it. Can you duplicate it? We never have had anybody duplicate all forms of the evidence that Billy had. We haven't had them duplicate even one form of the evidence that Billy had. So it's something that it's a personal thing, whether you want to believe it or not. But it's not my job as an investigator to tell you, you have to believe this or don't believe it. It's my job to take what I have learned from my investigation, present it to you, and let you make your own determination.
A lot of people have looked at Billy Meier as a liar, a cheat, a steal of the community. And you've heard it all. You know, I mean, when people talk about the dirty side of ufology, his name is brought up with Bob Lazar, is brought up with other contactees who have, maybe who the public feels has stretched the truth or something along those lines. But you definitely believe him. You've seen the evidence that he has provided. Why do you think that he is being so castigated within the UFO community?
Well, I think part of it was when we first got involved, because we weren't part of the UFO community, and we started bringing scientists in, and we wouldn't give our evidence over to the UFO community. We thought it really deserved a look-see from people like Robert Post, Eric Eliason at USGS, Marcel Vogel at IBM, people like that. I think we made a lot of people mad, and that's okay, because this evidence was too important to just turn over to somebody that did not have the qualifications to really examine it. And we never turned it over to anybody. We went everywhere with this evidence. It was too unique. There is not another case that has ever provided as much physical evidence as the Meier case. Why people call him a liar or a thief, I don't know. I have never understood that. If anything, I've always found Billy to be very direct and very open. He never shied away from any questions. I mean, my husband and I spent over 365 days living in a camp trailer right next to the farm during that 7-year investigation. We'd go over, we would do some research and work, we'd come back to the States, and we'd go back again later. So I never found anything that Billy said directly to me as something that I could say he lied intentionally about or that he misguided or misled me. I cannot speak to the fact that he had physical contact for all of those years and had all of those conversations. In truth, the only person that knows that is Billy Meier. I didn't have the contacts, so I can't say for 100% real that that is true. I can't do it. But I can say his evidence that he provided to us supports what he says. But I didn't have the context, so I don't know.
Looking at everything, what makes you believe that he's telling the truth? Was it the photographs? Was it the physical evidence? Was he a believable guy?
Very believable guy. It was the physical evidence, primarily the metal, also the sound, even more than the photographs, which when you walk the sites of the contacts and you see some of the places that these images were taken, it would be very difficult to suspend a 21-foot model from anything and have it go through a series of maybe 32 different pictures taken over a span of just a few minutes. Things like that. But I think mostly it was the metal for me. The sounds were also very unique. We took them to a gentleman that worked at Groton Naval Facility, and he went through the sound banks that they had where they registered every sound that you can imagine. Couldn't find anything like it. We later took it to Steve Ambrose, Nils Ragnerud, both audio engineers over in Hollywood. Steve had done work with Stevie Wonder. Nils had his own unbelievable background, but they found that these sounds ran in a whole variety of frequencies, and they'd start very expanded and then they contract into one, and then they expand again. And when you ask them, could you duplicate it? No. What do you think its purpose is? I have no idea. I don't know what it is. Maybe some sort of propulsion, because it was also registering the Schumann resonance of the Earth. So that was a base, kind of a baseline throughout the whole thing. And they said maybe it's riding the waves, the magnetic waves of the Earth, which when we talked to H. David Froning and Alan Holt of NASA, David was with McDonnell Douglas, they said, God, that makes perfect sense. And so they started looking at the propulsion possibilities that were available just based on the sounds. I mean, there were so many things. Every time we thought we had an answer, we ended up with 50 to 100 more questions and going in different directions. And every time somebody said, it's all fake, we went, okay, well, we know we got this far on it. Are there any new tests out there that we can run to find out? And literally, we were on 3 continents, all over, trying to find new ways to examine things. Marcel Vogel, when he got involved with the metal, he was at IBM. He held all kinds of patents. He looked at it, could not believe what he was seeing. He had it under a scanning electron microscope. And because he was questioning what he was seeing, he called in 42 other scientists to sit down and go through everything with him and see if he missed something. So it was those little tiny things, those, now looking back at them, they're great big things because we didn't have the technology then to make and manufacture images and metal and sounds like we do today. The synthesizers today are very different from the ones of 1975. And then talking to the witnesses who saw the craft, some who filmed the craft. These were pilots, they were teachers, they were, in one case, a politician. And they came from all over Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Italy to sit down and talk with Meier. And he always took the time to talk with them. It was pretty great. But it was very interesting in the beginning because we did want to disprove it. We wanted to figure out how he was doing, and we couldn't.
His power of summoning UFOs and everything is second to none if it's truthful.
Right.
You know, and he's 87 years old now,
Right.
and still doing it and still doing his thing, what he feels. He's never changed his story. He's never really tried to, give any really yeah buts. People have already made their mind up, but he does have some of the vintage photos, including the famous "I Want to Believe" poster.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yes, that poster was made from one of his photographs. Yes.
I hope he gets a royalty on that, by the way.
No, he does not. Mm-mm. He does not. He should, but he doesn't. He doesn't. Billy's, contrary to what people say, he's not in it for the money. When we first met him, this man did not have indoor plumbing. Literally, did not have indoor plumbing. That's hard to believe, but it is true. And they would haul water from the well and they would bring it in and heat it on the stove to wash and to do their laundry and their dishes and everything. The farm was pretty dilapidated. He had just moved in when we met him. And it has progressed over the years, and people have come from all over the world to help to rebuild it. My husband helped him put a roof on it, things like that. And it's nice to see that grow and develop, but it wasn't because Billy was demanding money from anybody. When he gave us all of the information, all of the data and the evidence, he didn't say, "I'm charging you for it." He said, "Take it to the States, have it analyzed, and tell me what your scientists think." That's what he thought. So he was, like I said, a very earthy guy, just down to earth.
What about his family?
Well, that's an interesting story. The kids used to drop.
We only got about 1 minute here.
Oh, maybe we should hold this one then.
Well, get it started, then I'll let you.
Okay, the kids used to draw pictures of the UFOs they had seen, and they were quite amazed by what was going on. They didn't like the fact that their father was a contactee. His oldest daughter, Gilgamesha, was almost kidnapped coming home from school. We were there when it happened. A van pulled up and tried to push her into the van. Billy's had assassination attempts. He's divorced. His wife could not handle the people coming and going from the farm. It was too much for her.
Wow. Let's continue the family part.
Sure.
When we return, because, we always think that it's a person.
Yeah.
We never seem to remember that person has ties to a spouse, children, relatives, brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, that have to put up with what they read on the internet, what they read online, on social media, or whatever it may be. And it gets difficult sometimes to be a part of that, as you said, with Billy's wife leaving him. We are going to continue with Brit Elders here. She has a book, UFO Contact from the Pleiades, volumes 1 and 2, about the Billy Meier story. We'll get more into UFOs and weird stuff with Brit when we return on Spaced Out Radio. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Britt, we are through 1 hour. And
Oh, that went fast.
it totally did. Totally did. My audience is loving you, by the way. And
Oh, thank you guys.
not only do they love you, they think your hair is incredible.
Oh, that's good. It sort of does what it wants to do.
We're going to turn it. We got about 5.5 minutes.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to turn this over to Dirty Filth here.
Oh,
so we
good.
can go over his amazing
I've been
piece of
wanting to see this.
All right, there it is. Dirty, are you there?
No.
Okay, good.
So it's June, and the one lady across in the complex where I live, she was cooking something. It smelled really good, baking something, or it was just something good. And I figured,
Oh,
it's
yum.
that time where Sasquatch comes out of hibernation, and searches for pies sitting on windowsills.
There you go.
And so he's just sitting there, and there's a little smell trail of delicious pie smell coming through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his mischievous Sasquatch grin and his little underbite. Because I figured Sasquatch probably have an underbite.
Yeah. Gotta have an underbite. Better than an overbite. I like Grandma's house. She's cooking, huh?
Yeah, she's always got something cooking bacon pies, or she's got roast on a Sunday.
That's neat.
When I was a kid, we used to have roast on Sundays, like stereotypically, and I never really thought anything of it till I got older. And then I was making jokes about it. Some friends of mine, like, "Oh, you're gonna have a roast on a Sunday like a grandma?" And I was like, "Klaus, you do that all the time." I'm like, "Good point." I'll just be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a stack of my cartoons that I'm rescanning, but I do have a cartoon I made of the Sasquatch stealing a pie off a windowsill, and then a man in black appears out of nowhere and scolds the Sasquatch and tells him to put it back on the windowsill, and then this man in black loses power, and after he loses all his power, the Sasquatch does the right thing and he picks him up and places him on the side of the road, and then a little UFO comes and beams up the man in black, and that's the end of the comic.
No, how clever. Where are you located? You're in Canada too?
Yes. I live in Edmonton. I think Dave and I we're pretty far. I think we're both equal distance north in Canada, except I live on the flat grounds and he lives in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
With all the Sasquatch, we just got bog monsters and fairies and junk.
I have friends that live up in Smithers, and big city of Smithers.
I've never been there. I've been to Prince George once when I was younger.
Yeah.
My dad used to drive Super B. If you're listening, Pops, hi. He used to drive Super B all the time, and he'd give me $100 to go with him for the weekend. And when you're 16, $100 to just tarp a load of lumber, I'll take it. I got to eat all this food the whole time driving up there, so it was cool. Almost hit a moose once. That was scary.
I'm gonna go get some more water, so I'm gonna turn my camera off for a sec.
You should mute yourself so if you're like me and you swear, nobody hears you swearing.
Okay.
I have a hard time keeping it together here. Fridge. Okay, anyways, Paranormal Pixie Blob showed up for a little bit, and then she got wigged out and ran away. Hi, Kira. Blob was here momentarily earlier, but ran away. They're kind of wigged out because George, the big cat in the neighborhood, came over and cornered the gremlin and freaked everybody out and beat him up a little bit. He's okay, though. The gremlin is okay. The other cats are fine. That's all right. Blob was sitting on the couch anyways, on her blob spot at the time. But all the cats are okay. The gremlin's got a chipped nail. I'm sure you'll survive. A whippet for the first time in 25 years. Holy, I haven't heard that for a long time. Let's go with a raspberry pie, love. I'll write that down, make sure. Get that written all handy dandy. There we are. Raspberry pie. Ugh. Whoops.
It's real good.
It's raspberry pie this time, Dave.
You know what looks better? Is that Oilers' victory tonight.
Yeah, I seen they won 5-2. I was okay with that.
Yeah, I was okay with that too.
I'm going to go
Great.
scan more drawings now, Dave.
Are you? What are you scanning?
All my drawings from 2020 till now.
Very nice.
I don't know who
Very
let me
nice.
draw all these drawings, but I'm upset with them.
Yeah, that's my fault.
Unbelievable, Dave. I'll have to send
All
you
right,
a nasty later. Have a good night, man.
Later, buddy. All right, Tokeland, how you doing? And if you have any questions for Britt, put them in capital letters, please, just like Joe did. Magnus for Magnuson. Nice to see you. Thank you to our lone super chatter, Foxy Joe, tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. And we're going to get going with hour 2 right now. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America. We love you guys tuning us on in each and every night. And the Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Weird Ward. Yes, Weird Ward is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here is Brit Elders. We are talking about Billy Meier, UFOs, ET contact, the Pleiadians, her website, BritElders.com. You can get her books there, and it'll be fun. You'll enjoy it. Britt, welcome back.
Thank you.
Right before the break,
Yeah.
I had asked you about Billy's family,
Mhm.
and you wanted to go into some detail about that.
I really do, because Billy, what he's gone through, I don't think anybody should ever have to go through. He's had people bang on his door at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've seen it personally, demanding to talk to him. It created quite a strain in his family life. His kids were called UFO Meier at school. Really, you know how cruel kids can be to each other. It was difficult for him to not demand that the contacts stop sometimes because of humans, because of how people reacted. Wendell was there, and we were there one time when an assassination attempt was made on his life. Somebody shot at him from a hill above his house. The bullet went just right by him, and it hit the barn door right next to him. He really had a rough life as a young man, and he traveled the world. He's not educated like we think of educated, not school-wise, but he's world-wise. He did travel in the Middle East. He traveled through India, obviously through Europe. And when he finally settled down, he married a Greek woman. She had one fiery temper. I can attest to that. I saw her go off many, many times. And she hung out for as long as she could. She stayed and stayed, and then she just couldn't take the people anymore. She couldn't take the criticism. Her friends turned against her because Meier was openly telling people he was having contact, and that really upset her. That made her, in the beginning, let me put it this way, she talked about the contacts, she told us what she had seen. We have her on film talking about various different experiences she had with Billy. They divorced, and she decided the contacts were all fake. But her life was turned upside down, and so was his. And this happens quite often. Travis Walton is another example. As an abductee taken aboard the craft, he approached the craft, so he was partly responsible for it too. But he went through hell after his experience. People didn't believe him either, and they really put him down. And he's a good guy, and he really lived through it as well. This happens so often, and this is why it's so important. To whatever experience someone has, don't hold judgment against them. It's their experience. It's not yours. You only are the recipient of what they have to say to you about it. And just take that and hear it. Listen to it. It's a method that we can all use for learning a little more about each other.
As he went on to, become famous and infamous at the
Infamous,
same
yeah.
time, how did he handle the criticism?
He has a great way of dealing with it. In fact, I talked to him about it a couple of weeks ago. And I asked him, people are still saying, okay, this is all fake. It's not real, all of that. How do you deal with it? And he says, it's real simple. He says, that's their opinion. It's okay. That's all it is. I send them love and I go on about my life. It's not worth wasting my time over. He has never gone on the attack that I have ever heard, personally or through anyone over there, to anyone that's attacked him. It's okay. Let them have their opinion. He's that stable in his own truth, which is kind of interesting.
I don't know if I could do that. I mean, because he has been silent, but I mean, he has had supporters come out, who have, I think, at times, I don't want to say made a mockery of his story,
Sure.
but at times have not, even though they're defending him, haven't painted Billy in a good light because of the way they spoke.
Yeah.
And
I agree. And I have heard it from them they've gone over, people that have gone over, met with Billy, and they come back and they're an expert suddenly on everything going on. And they do. I don't know what it is that makes them react that way, but they do tend to put him down, be angry, be aggressive, which is completely the opposite of what Billy is. I can't explain it. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, there's a lot of things that don't make sense about his story. It is a matter of, something that is wild and something that, does not make sense.
Yeah.
So I mean, how do we go about making sense out of the insensitive?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think you have to go about making sense by what resonates with you. And that's all based on your own experiences. People that have had experiences are more receptive to others' experiences. If you haven't had anything that is anomalous in your life, it doesn't quite resonate on the same level. And I think that's the only way that I can explain it. Like I said, I don't want to tell anybody you have to believe what I'm telling you. I can only tell you what I experienced, what I witnessed personally. But I can't tell you Billy had contact. He knows that. That's his truth. Mine is, I'll give you an example. One night, Billy had gone off to a contact, and he was walking behind the house. We were in the camp trailer next to the house. We heard him. We know that because he had told us this, if we were to follow him, they would not have had the contact. So we thought, okay, we'll just wait and see what happens. It was a beautiful, clear night. We went outside. We were standing there waiting for him to come back. And everything lit up bright blue-white light. And I am talking beneath the trees, above the trees, through the trees, all around the house. Everything had this just amazing light in all directions, but it didn't have a source. And we looked at each other and went, what is that? It quit. And then it happened 2 more times. So for a total of 3 times, this light came on and went off. And it was like it just, everything suddenly had its own light. It didn't have a source. It wasn't like a light bulb where you get that one specific area, or like your Bigfoot light back there. No, it wasn't like any of that. It was just everything was lit. And when Billy came back and we were talking to him about it, he says, oh, they were probably just letting you know that they were there. Another time we followed him the following morning after he'd gone out for a contact. That night it had been pouring rain. We followed his footsteps in the mud, and we had a film crew with us at the time. And we got to this clearing and his footprints vanished. So you take that and you go, what do you do with it? As an investigator, I know I can look all over the place, and he didn't back out in the same footprints, but there was only one set of footprints going in, and then they were gone. Where did they go? How did he manage to remove himself from that clearing and not leave any trace? These are things you can't answer, but they're things that we experienced. It's beyond what we comprehend as being real, because we don't think in dimensional terms.
No, and I get that, and I can understand that notion of everything. With Billy, though, there are people who claim that they have debunked his work, that they have debunked his videos, like the discs that they are using are hubcaps, or
Yeah.
modified hubcaps, and if you zoom in close enough, you can see the string. And trust me, I like the poster says, I want to believe Billy.
Right.
I really do want to believe Billy, because I think we need more people like him. But for every true contactee, there's a Stan Romanek out there that is,
Yep.
abusing the system. I like, even with Stan Romanek before he ended up going to jail for some pretty heinous crimes. He was starting to fake his evidence at the end, because
Yeah.
the contact he was having was starting to vanish.
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of people just don't want to give up that popularity.
That's right. Well, when the evidence stopped coming for Billy, it stopped coming. I mean, he told us, the Pleiadian said, how much do you need? You've got photographs, movie footage, metal samples, audio recordings, and all these witnesses. What else do you need? So that was one aspect of it. But
can
there
I
was
stop
another.
you right there for a second, though?
Sure.
Okay. To me, from a human point of view,
Yeah.
that seems like a real ignorant comment by the aliens.
Not at all.
But let me explain why. What more do you need?
Okay.
I mean, if they're here to make contact, why stop at Billy? Why not bring in more people? Why not bring in gatherings of people? Why not bring in, something in populated areas rather than a one-armed farmer in the middle of Switzerland?
Right. Well, first of all, I have to say, I don't think Billy was the only one. We had a contactee in South America, knew all about the contacts Billy was having. The man didn't have a telephone. He didn't have a television. He didn't have a radio. He was an Indian, a Quechua Indian living in Peru. And yet he had all of this information, and he had his own contacts. I think there are many, many contacts going on. I think Billy's contacts were strictly designed to see how we would react as humans, as some other contacts have been, where physical evidence has been given. I don't think it's in their best interest to have a mass contact right now. I think there are still too many on the planet that would react rather harshly to that. I can understand why they would say, "How much do you need?" Because in the first year, he had well over 500 images, photographs. Now, to take it back to your comment before about these people that say that they have definitely figured out how he faked it, who are the experts they used? That's my first question to them. And where did they get the inner negatives, which are the closest thing to the original you can get? Where did they get the metal samples? Where did they get the audio recordings? Where did they get the movie footage? Because we have the movie footage. It has never left us. So anybody that says they can determine that that was faked, I got to send them to the scientist we used that examined it and said there is no splicing, there is no superimposition on it. We even brought in Wally Gentleman, who was one of the best miniature experts on the planet. He worked with Stanley Kubrick, he worked with Coppola, he worked with a lot of different people. Won Academy Awards, great guy, British guy. And he made a model for us. Now, the model was about a foot across. And because everybody was saying, oh, it's a tiny little model suspended on a monofilament line. So we did that. We made the model, we suspended it on a monofilament line, and we filmed it. We filmed it with a movie camera, and we filmed it with a still 35 millimeter camera. We ran it through all of the tests that we put Meier's photographs through. We could find the string, the monofilament line. We could find that the craft was very small compared to the 21-foot diameter object that Billy was filming. And that was done just by digitizing the image. You didn't have to go any further to figure out this was a very small model suspended on a string. And that sequence, there's a documentary coming out. In fact, it's available now. And you can get it through Beyond Words, and it's called UFO Contact from the Pleiades, a documentary film. That documentary was filmed in 1982 during our investigation, and you can see and hear the scientist. You can see the model that we had made, and you can see how it was tested. And you can see that Billy's photographs are completely different and don't look fake when you run them through the computers that we had at that point in time.
See, we've never heard that angle. And let's face it, a lot of the things that we see in ufology today, whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's paranormal and ghosts, whether it's, like I said, whether it's UFOs and aliens,
Right.
a lot of it we're defining on opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I had a guest last night, Blaine Tyler, who has found a 34-inch Sasquatch print. Comment on YouTube. You know, no photograph, no evidence, just another storyteller, you know, BS on it. Comment, you can read it on our YouTube channel. And I look at that and say, okay, so when did opinion become scientific evidence?
Exactly. Exactly right. And that's why I said when you hear these things, you cannot approach them with judgment. You just have to be a little bit open, not a whole lot open. It's okay to not believe, but just be a little bit open to the possibility. Because there's so many things we don't understand, and we really need to kind of dig in so we can understand. And if you're not open to it, you never will understand.
You've talked to people who have surrounded themselves with Billy.
Mm-hmm.
What do they say about him?
Most of them are kind of, I got to tell you, some of them put him on a pedestal, and they do this kind of messiah thing with him. Billy's a man. He's human, just like we are. And it's not fair to him and it's not fair to them when they do that. But they do that. Others have a tendency to just look at him as a person with a lot of information and they just want the information. And the thing about wanting more is humans always want more. We're never satisfied with what we have. So I'm finding in most cases the people that have gotten very close to Meier over the years, many of them are still very close to him. They believe what he has said. They believe the evidence documents what he has said. And they're okay with it. And then there is a group that are looking to put some kind of power above themselves and they give it all to Meier. And that I think is wrong. But in many ways, there's a group around him called FIGU. And this group gets together every week and it's like a study group. One of the things in talking with the late Stanton Friedman years and years and years ago, he was concerned about the fact that the group that was going to spring up around Billy was going to become a cult. And from that one perspective, I could see how people would view it. But from another perspective, and knowing how study groups work, where they all get together and they read whatever material it is, or they do a meditation or whatever, that's what's going on at FIGU. So they're a study group. I would not call them a cult. Most of them don't look at Billy as that person on the pedestal. They look at Billy as just a normal person, but he's had a unique experience and they'd like to learn from that experience. So that I think is kind of how people just view him on all of these different levels. I do know one lady, Elsie Moser, she was a love. She just recently passed, but she, for years, all these years, 45, she has always admired Meier for just being a very raw, natural human being. And I think that says a lot when you have a friend that's been around for 45 years. And she knew him before all of this happened. Yeah.
Right. How did I know we've talked a lot about this. How did it start with him? What happened there?
He was in his kitchen. He got a cooling sensation, as he described it, across his forehead. And then he heard a voice that sort of urged him to go outside, get on his moped, and drive off into the forest and follow the directions. He did. He ended up in a area of the forest that was not populated, didn't have little towns around it. It was a big clearing surrounded by trees. And he heard this sound. It was the sound of the craft. He couldn't figure out what it was. He'd never heard anything like it before. He looked up, saw the craft, and then it slowly settled down, landed, and a woman got out and walked towards him. That was Simyasa. She was tall, blonde, blue-eyed, looked very much like us. He said the difference was her earlobes came right into her jaw, and she had kind of a translucent quality about her skin, her complexion. It was so fair and so pure. He said it was just like it was something you could almost see through. It was so beautiful. And then she came up, she introduced herself. She spoke his native tongue, Swiss German, and they sat down under a tree. And they had this big, long conversation. And it was then that she said she was there to let him know that he could tell others, and she would provide the evidence to support his statements, that we're not the only thinking beings on the planet. Now, Dave, the interesting thing about this is years later, we took gamma radiation detection equipment in through a company.
Hold right there. We're going to go to break here. Britt Elders is going to finish this story on Billy Meier when we return on Spaced Out Radio, the second half of the show, coming up right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear.
I love the hand signals.
Yes, thank you for paying attention to them. Many do not. Many do not, but that's okay. It's okay. You having fun?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love your show. I like your questions.
Fine, go. We're gonna get to some audience questions next, so it'll be good.
Well, it's nice having a discussion that isn't the same typical question. You reach a little deeper, and I appreciate that.
I try.
You do good.
You know, I just like to make it more personable.
Yeah.
I think too many times we try and complicate the interview.
Yeah. I've had some of those too. Or I've had hosts that just kind of, they're not there. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, not you. Mm-mm. I like your show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's because my Oilers won tonight. Oop, I didn't want to do that. Let's hide that. Just trying to get caught up here in the chat room. Steve Romo listening in on X. How you doing, man? Thank you for tuning us in. I think we're, yeah. Aloha, Dave. It's a really great show. Wow, wow, wow. I think he likes you.
Yeah.
Just saying. No control over that, but
No, that's okay. Everybody needs to be liked, right?
Mm-hmm. 1 second. I got to make sure that my UFO lady is up. Where are we? This will be funny. See if she's awake. She better be. Hi, Blue Cruise. Yoo-hoo! Okay, just making sure. I got to go back to my guests now.
Yep, I'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. She's awake. Why would I wear Oklahoma City Thunder colors? I wear winning team's colors. Oh, sweet Robbie G. I know what you're doing right now, and it's not going to bother me because we won tonight. Not going to bother. Nope. Yes. One of these days, sweet Robbie G, he's my weekend host. One of these days, sweet Robbie G, we're going to get that basketball out of you. All right. We have about 2 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes. Then we'll get to some audience questions. Or do you want to finish your answer?
Oh, let me finish my answer. I'll try to do it real quick.
Okay, I have to remember the question now because I forgot it because of the phone call.
Oh, I was going to tell you about the gamma radiation.
Gamma radiation, cool.
Yeah.
Hi, Dry Toast. Best name on YouTube right there. Dry Toast. Dry Toast. Holy cow, what a time to be alive.
Yeah.
Want to be alive. Want to be alive. Because Dry Toast was born. Born to be alive. I like that song. Every time I sing it, sweet Robbie G gets up and dances in his underwear with it. This is what we do during the breaks here, Britt.
That's good. You giggle a lot.
Oh, I try. Or I just stare off of the camera for like 4 minutes. And people are like, Dave, are you alive? Or is Dave frozen? No, I just stare. All right. We got about 30 seconds. Thank you to Aloha Dave and Foxy Joe for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. Thank you to Sweet Robbie G for having the best chin hair in UFO radio. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out. Only in my approved SOR Dave Scott drawers. That's awesome. All right, we got 7 seconds. Let's gather it all together. Hi, Jay Truth Seeker. How you doing? Here we go. Second half of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate hurting your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, always check out our free archives. Notice we say free because they're always free. You can go to YouTube or any major podcast network, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it. We're there. Yeah, we are. Just for you. Free. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Final time tonight, we say hello to Brit Elders, her website, BritElders.com. Talking about her book about Billy Meier, UFO Contact from the Pleiades. And Britt, you were talking about, right before the break, some sort of science stuff. I'm not a big science guy, so I'll just call it science stuff.
Okay. Now I'll try not to put you to sleep with it and make it real
you're
brief.
not going to be put me to sleep. I'm just going to be like writing down these terms that I now have to Google.
Oh, okay. Well, we had brought in equipment from a company named Wild Heerberg, and they brought their engineers with the equipment, and we wanted to test the first contact site where Billy met Semyasa and sat under a tree and see if there was any residual radiation. It pegged the meter with gamma radiation. Then we checked his belt buckle. Same thing. His moped. Same thing. So gamma radiation, this was, 7 years after the initial contact, had everything still hot. It was unbelievable, to the point that the Wild Heerberg engineers said, we've got to call in the Swiss Regulatory Commission for the nuclear radiation that is here. It wasn't any place else in the area, just under that tree, in the soil, on his belt buckle, on his moped. That's kind of scary because gamma radiation can do damage to living cells, plant and human. So that was one of the things that was residual from the very first contact that Meier had with Semyasa.
All right, let's get to some audience questions here.
Okay.
As they are building up. Joe wants to know, Billy Meier's early days, he was kind of like a James Bond, Indiana Jones guy. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I don't know about a James Bond or Indiana Jones guy, but he did travel all over the Middle East. He lived in India. He was in the French Foreign Legion for a time. He traveled all through Europe. So that's why I said he wasn't educated as we think of being educated in a school, but he was very worldly from that respect. Yeah.
All right, let's continue on. Let's go to NHI. What about the story of Billy Meier and the Pope?
Oh, the 3-day Pope? Is that the one you're talking about? That one, right. I have personal knowledge of. Billy had told us that the Pope, I can't remember which one right now, but the one that died, there would be a Pope replacing him that only would last 3 days. And so that actually happened. It was kind of a prophetic thing that Billy had told us about before it happened. But the same thing happened when Anwar Sadat was assassinated. We were in Europe at the time. The news was saying it was one man that had assassinated him. This was the president of Egypt, and it actually happened in a military parade. Billy went and got his contact notes, and several years earlier, he had been told Anwar Sadat would be assassinated in a military parade by many people. So he did have a prophetic aspect to all of the contacts as well.
Very awesome. Let's go over to our next one from Kira, who is asking, Britt, can you share any investigative stories from White Sands, New Mexico? Thank you.
There's a lot that's gone on at White Sands besides our missile programs. There have been tremendous amounts of sightings there. I actually have several friends that live in the area, and they've taken some remarkable photographs. Not just disc-shaped craft, which is kind of common, but we have been seeing a lot of boomerang-shaped craft in that area as well. And who they are, what they're doing, I don't know, but they seem to like places where either energy is generated or transmitted. We've had them appear over power stations, over volcanoes, lots of places. So it doesn't have to be man-made energy. It can also be natural energy. But White Sands, that whole area is a hotbed for UFO activity. Now, are they all ours? Are they somebody else's? According to the engineers who worked on the missile programs early on at White Sands, there were things that we did not have. We could not make them fly the way they did.
Always strange things happening out there
Yeah.
in the New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada desert.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
New Mexico, Colorado. Yeah.
What do you think of the potential of jump rooms in White Sands?
Wow. I think it's a technology we're developing, but I don't think we're there yet.
You don't think Andrew Bashago was a child chrononaut going in?
I have a difficult time getting into the fact that our government did that. If it's something that was done by the extraterrestrials, I could understand it. But going back to that time frame and knowing what my dad and some of the other engineers worked on and were successful at in some cases, failures in most, I don't think we had those capabilities. So anything done by ETs, that could be different. But I don't think it was a government program.
All right. Let's move on to the UK, where Council Dude is having a tea right now. Good morning. Have you communicated with Mobian beings?
No.
Or people who have Superman is based on them?
No, I haven't, but I would love to know more.
Let's go to X. Steve is asking, in the simplest terms, what central message would you say Billy had to offer us from the Pleiadians?
That we're not the only thinking beings in the universe. Now remember, this is back in 1975 when UFO was a taboo term. Nobody said, hey, guess what? I saw a UFO. Nobody did that. You put your reputation at risk just even talking about the subject. And they said that that's what they needed to change. They needed to let people know we're not alone.
Let's move on to T-Bone. Britt, are you aware of the Raelian movement? If so, what is your opinion?
I've heard of them. I have not studied them, so I really don't feel qualified to say anything about them. I do know a little bit, but not enough to make a statement about them.
Yeah, it's for people who don't know, the Raelian movement is like a UFO religious cult out of Washington State.
They've been around a long time.
Oh, yes.
It's not anything I'm into. I like the physical evidence. I like the stories that people have to share. I am not into creating a foundation of a new awareness. I'm into learning. And to me, that's one of the most valuable things we can do right now is learn from each other. But that's just something that's a little more out of the realm for what I like. I love physical evidence and I love what people experience.
All right. Let us say hello to our next question from War Eagle.
Mm.
How does Billy think about himself in this 21st century?
Ah. Looking back, he said he's had a very good life and he's quite comfortable with it. And he thinks the world is finally catching up to what the Pleiadians told him. So we are moving forward, and that makes him feel good.
Well, that's good. That's good. Does he still receive the messages, or
Yeah.
have they turned him off, so to speak?
No, he does still get contact with them. He's physical contact as well as telepathic contact, communications with them, but they're not providing any more evidence. And they said that many of the messages now are strictly for him as an individual in his growth. So that's sort of interesting, but they are all available. All of the messages, they've got them all logged and in books and on the internet. They're being translated and put up so people can sort of follow along what's being said.
Awesome. Dave is asking, I want to hear more about the woman Billy talked to. That's really interesting. If you know.
Semyasa?
Yes.
Yeah, she was a fascinating lady. She was not the only one. He also spoke with a man by the name of Quetzal, and he spoke with a man by the name of Ptah. But the discussions were very, in the beginning, very calm and just, this is why we're here. This is what we're doing. We studied you for 10 years before we decided to initiate contact. The reason for that was that we felt our frequencies and your frequencies were compatible. They used the term frequency. When you talk to audio engineers, that's a term they use frequently, that vibrations and frequencies either merge or they don't. And this is something Pleiadians told him right along, that his frequencies were very similar to theirs. They also said that the contact would go on for a number of years, that its purpose was to provide documentation, and everything that she did, she spoke to him in Swiss German, which to me was kind of remarkable. One of the things that she explained to him was that they could learn an earth language, old or ancient or current, in just a matter of weeks. So they could basically speak every language on earth, whether it exists now or existed in ancient times. And that was fascinating to me that they had that capability. But we've heard that from other contactees all over the world too.
Very true. Very
Yeah.
true. Let's go to T-Bone. What do you think of Barbara Marciniak's channeling?
Well, Barbara has been channeling a long, long time. And like I said, I don't put judgment on it. That's her thing. I think channeling, well, I've sat through many, many channels. So it's something I don't poo-poo. I know it does exist out there and there's a lot of information that can be garnered. Barbara's channelings, I've read a couple of her books. They're very interesting. But whether or not I would apply them to all aspects of life, I'm not sure I would. Does that make sense?
What do you think of channelers?
I think they're tapping into an energy that we can all tap into in many cases. I think some have direct contact with angelic beings, ETs, whatever, and are bringing forth information that, this may sound strange, but I think resides within each of us. I think our soul carries all knowledge, and I think they just have a way of bringing it forth.
It's also very easy to fake. And I'm saying that as somebody who has channeled.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. Very easy. I don't do it myself. God, I haven't channeled in a couple of years, to be blunt.
Well, I remember Ramtha. Yeah.
My first experience channeling was what brought me into this entire field. I saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then a couple hours later, he channeled through me, telling me I wasn't supposed to see him, but because I did, he came to give me an answer on how to keep my mom alive. And I got
Wow.
I got another
Oh, fascinating.
12 years out of my mom.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, which is cool.
Well, that's a different kind of channeling than what I'm talking about.
Not
I mean,
really.
that kind of energy, really, you think it's the same?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. All the same.
I think we're all guided through that. To me, that's, I don't know, it's more than intuition, but I think we get guided by that type of information in many cases. Sometimes we recognize it, sometimes we don't. But channeling to me, I've sat through some that I question. I've sat through some that have been absolutely fascinating when people are imparting information to other people. But as far as getting your own information, I think we can all do that.
Very
I think
true.
it's really great when it happens.
All right, let's go to. We got about 7.5 minutes. We got a bunch of questions here. Let's go to Nina. How many languages did Billy speak?
He was fluent in Swiss German and German. He could get by with some Indian. The different dialects, he could do some of them. And there was, I'm not sure if it was Farsi, but it was one of the Middle Eastern languages he could understand. It was not fluent in. He did not speak French. English, even when we met him, was sometimes broken. He would get tired and he couldn't recall words. But we would sit up all night around the kitchen table drinking coffee kirsch and talking. And by the end of the evening, he could barely, remember English. He was so exhausted. So, yeah, it depended. He could pick up bits and pieces of different languages, but he was only really fluent in Swiss German and German.
All right, let's go over to Steve on X. Any thoughts on Craig Campobasso's books? I just love his stuff.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with them. I have heard of them, but I have not read them. Now I have to.
Yeah, his most recent book was about different species of extraterrestrials, and a good friend of ours on this show, R. Keith
Uh-huh.
Andrews, helped him out with that. So that was kind of cool.
Uh-huh.
All right, Jeffrey is asking. Oh shoot! Jeffrey, I accidentally just erased your question. Let me re-grab it here. You said your dad worked with Werner von Braun. Did he
Right.
ever drop any UFO hints?
Yeah. They talked about the things. Well, did von Braun or did my dad? Von Braun did not speak about any of the things that he had worked on previously, which I was always curious about as I got older. But my dad did talk about the objects that hovered as they were sending up the missiles. They were all curious. All the engineers were very, very curious about that. How did we have something that could hover silently when our missiles sounded like a train coming through something, this huge, horrible sound, and they weren't going up and staying up. They were going up and coming right back down. So that was something the engineers all talked about, but von Braun never talked about it. Not openly when I was around anyway.
Yeah, because there's always been that question about Werner von Braun on whether at the time when he was working for Nazi Germany,
Right.
on whether or not, he learned what he learned from any ET presence.
That's right. Yeah, and there was a lot of discussion about that because they were actually working on so many different designs of craft. And here we were still working on the typical missile, the rocket, and they were actually trying to create a disc-shaped object and trying to understand the propulsion of it, the Nazis were. So what he brought with him, I have no idea. But I'm sure that with the knowledge that he had over there and what they were trying to do here, I'm sure the US government was utilizing it for sure.
You never know. We got 3.5 minutes here before we have to say goodnight to you. Sweet Tony D over in the UK is asking about Billy Meier's arm. How did he lose it?
He lost it in a bus accident in Turkey. And he was in the bus and it was hit by a truck and he lost his arm. They had to amputate just above the elbow. So does not consider that he's in any way handicapped. The man does everything still. And to see him, and you can see it on the documentary, how he takes his pictures with one hand. It's an old 35 millimeter camera. He can push the button to take the picture and wind the film with his thumb. And then he uses his arm to basically put the movie camera on a tripod and then operate it with one hand. So, yeah, he's quite remarkable, really, when you think about it. Drives a tractor, works in the fields, one hand. He's never bothered by any of that.
What would you like in closing for people to know about Billy Meier?
Don't believe everything you hear, but follow the evidence and make a decision on your own. It's an interesting case that if you open up to just a little bit in the field, whether it's Meier or anything else, you can learn a lot. And it's just have a little bit of an open mind and an open heart and pursue life that way. And if you do, you can't go wrong. Things are going to happen and you're going to experience things. And before long, you just keep growing and growing and growing in your curiosity and knowledge.
With 2 minutes to go,
Yeah.
Billy is getting older.
Yeah.
He's in his mid to late 80s now, and he's starting to slow down. And as people do at that age, let's face it, he's, in the, bottom half of the inning when it comes to life in the ninth inning. Why is it important to continue his story and to make sure that it's out there?
This was a choice we made, the investigators made, because there's a new generation out there that I think deserves this information and would be very open and receptive to it. It's one of the most beautiful cases around. The message that the Pleiadians give is quite beautiful. The photographs are stunning. The evidence, all of the documentary evidence is remarkable. And people need to know about it. And we talk about UFOs now. We're much more open-minded now in the 21st century than we were back in 1975.
45 seconds. Let everybody know where they can find your books, your website, any podcasts you may do.
Okay. The books are available everywhere. Amazon's a great place to get it. It's one book, 200 pages, 10 inches by 10 inches square, full of 4-color photographs. The documentary film is available through Beyond Words Publishing, and it's out on CD or DVD right now, and then it will be streaming later. And then visit the website, my website, Brit@BritElders.com. You can reach me at email, BritElders.com. Will tell you all the things I'm involved with. Yeah, so life is good. I agree with your person earlier.
Britt, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio. What a pleasure. Coming up next, we have Steve Stockton. Then Nicole Sackage is here for the UFO Court as Courtney's traveling to contact.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Perfect interview. Thank you very much, Britt.
Thank you. I really enjoyed that. That was fun.
Thank you.
I like how your little toes up there are wiggling. They were wiggling to the music. It's very eye-catching, that Bigfoot.
I was actually doing that under my desk as well with my toe.
Ah.
Perfect.
Dave, that was really great. Thank you. I do appreciate it.
All right. Britt, I'm going to let you go here, but you have an amazing night. I look forward to hearing from you because get me those contacts, and that way we can get your Bigfooty people on the radio.
That sounds great. I think they'll really enjoy it. Yeah, and I know that a lot of them are going to want to interview you.
Perfect.
Okay.
You take care, Britt. Thank you.
Too. Good night.
Good night. Britt Elders, everybody. How awesome was she? Good job, Dirty Filth. Good job getting dirty and getting us an awesome guest. I'll be right back, everybody. You stay right here because we got a great part of the show coming up. All right, I'm back. Edwin, how you doing? Good to see you. And we got about 1 minute to go. Put the headphones back on. And what a great show Britt was. Don't forget you can re-listen to it on our podcast. Nicole's hair looks great, by the way. Yes. Looks like a little bit of flat ironing has been done. Maybe not. Thank you to T-Bone ×2, Aloha Dave, and Foxy Joe for the great super chats. Very much appreciated. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out. Here we go. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Always good to have some fun with you guys. My name is Dave Scott, and I'm here every Monday through Friday night. Hey, I want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Weird Ward. Weird Ward is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night we say hello to Steve Stockton, who has a great story for us from his YouTube channel, Tales Untold.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Now let's look at the sailing stones of Death Valley. In Death Valley, there's a fascinating occurrence called the sailing stones. These stones, found in Racetrack Playa near the California border, come in different sizes, ranging from a few ounces to several hundred pounds. Something interesting about them is that they move by themselves without the influence of gravity. Although no one has ever seen the stones move, their changing positions and the paths they leave behind confirm that they do indeed move. The rocks that make up the trails are made of dolomite and syenite, which have the same composition as the surrounding mountains. The rocks break off due to erosion and roll onto the dry ground below, leaving trails as long as 1,500 feet. Scientists have noted that rocks with rough bottoms move in a straight line, while those with smooth bottoms tend to move in a meandering pattern. The phenomenon of sailing stones has been studied since the early 1900s, and various theories have been proposed to explain their mysterious movement. The sand dunes in Death Valley may be small, but they offer some of the most impressive views in the park. The Eureka Sand Dunes, which rise over 680 feet, are stunning. At the top of the dunes, you can witness a unique occurrence found only in the desert: singing sand. As sand flows down the steep slopes, it produces a sound similar to a pipe organ or distant airplane hum. While the exact cause is unknown, it is believed to result from friction between sand particles. This phenomenon is rare and can only be experienced at a few locations globally. Next, there may be an ancient subterranean city of giants underneath Death Valley. There's a captivating story among the Paiute Indians in Death Valley about an underground world called Shin-Ava. According to the legend, a Paiute chief lost his wife and went on a journey to find her in the realm of the dead. After overcoming many obstacles, he arrived at a spacious natural amphitheater where he was reunited with his beloved. Unfortunately, their story ends tragically, similar to the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, and he loses her once again. There are rumors about an underground cave and catacomb system found beneath Death Valley, which is believed to have been built by an ancient civilization. In the 1920s, a trapper named White stumbled upon underground rooms and tunnels while exploring an old mine. He discovered several human mummies dressed in leather and surrounded by precious items. A Paiute trapper and guide, Tom Wilson, shared a story about his grandfather's discovery, similar to White's. Despite their efforts, they were still searching for the caves. In 1932, Bork Lee wrote Death Valley Men, telling the story of Jack and Bill, who accidentally stumbled upon the tunnels. They had fallen through an abandoned mine shaft and found mummies and treasures like others before them. There have been reports of individuals who've discovered tunnels in Death Valley but could not locate them again and went missing. In 1947, Howard E. Hill shared an intriguing story about Dr. F. Bruce Russell, a retired physician from Cincinnati, Ohio, at the Los Angeles Transportation Club. While conducting archaeological excavations in Mexico a few years prior, Dr. Russell accidentally discovered a complex network of tunnels buried beneath Death Valley with his colleague, Dr. Daniel S. Bovee. It has been reported that Russell relocated to the western region to improve his health and explore potential mining opportunities. Regrettably, while excavating a shaft for his mining venture, he fell into a cave due to soil collapse. Surprisingly, he discovered a maze of tunnels that led in various directions. Russell and Bovee discovered the well-preserved remains of three giants standing at a height of 8 to 9 feet in a cavern. The giants were adorned in what appeared to be a gray-dyed sheepskin-like material of unknown origin. The room was decorated with artifacts resembling Egyptian and Native American designs, and the walls were made of polished granite with hieroglyphics etched into them. During their exploration, the adventurers came across what they believed to be the burial site of the tribal chiefs. Further investigation led them to stumble upon an ancient ritual hall where they discovered numerous artifacts, markings, and well-preserved remains of extinct animals such as dinosaurs, elephants, and tigers. Later analysis determined that these bones likely belonged to prehistoric creatures such as saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths. Russell reportedly told Hill that what they had found was only the beginning. They uncovered evidence of 32 tunnels across 180 square miles in Death Valley and parts of southern Nevada. Despite this, their claims were met with skepticism from professional archaeologists due to the significant time gap between the existence of dinosaurs and saber-toothed tigers. As a result, the scientific community showed little interest in pursuing the matter. However, Dr. Russell and a team of investors established Amazing Explorations Incorporated to manage the disclosure and financial opportunities linked to the discovery. Strangely, Russell disappeared while trying to find a location to show his friends in the desert. Despite months of searching, no leads were found until his car was located in a remote area of Death Valley. Although the car's radiator was damaged, his suitcase was found. Additionally, Dr. Bovee, who was also involved in the case, also vanished, making the situation even more perplexing.
And thank you to Steve Stockton for another great story. If you want more, head on over to his YouTube channel as we continue on with Spaced Out Radio tonight. Now, from the missing to the mysterious, Nicole Sakich is here with UFO Court, filling in for Courtney Marcassani, who is traveling down to contact in the desert.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
And Nicole Sakich, it's always good to chat with you from your weird desk to the woo-filled studios of Spaced Out Radio in central British Columbia. How you doing, my friend?
I'm tired, but I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing lovely, absolutely fantastic right now. Life is good. The weather is raining like anything here over the last number of days, but I'm okay with that because it's dampening the forests, which means they're going to suck up all that water and hopefully keep the forest fires away.
Well, we are in week 2 of the cicada emerging apocalypse here in Illinois. And I hear we have about 3 weeks left to go.
Being a cicada has to be a pretty boring life. It has to be a pretty boring life that you literally live in a shelter for years. You come out for a couple of weeks, you get your freak on, and then you go back into ground hiding for the next few years.
You know,
Like that.
there was a Saturday Night Live skit, I think 2 weeks ago. And of course, in true comedic form, they had two cicadas on for part of their news report. And yeah, they made it sound like it's the party of the century, when you're underground for a decade or more and then emerge and your only goal is to make a lot of noise and get it on. Sounds like a party.
Right?
Yep.
I just don't get it.
I will say though, every sci-fi movie that has to do with ETs or aliens, where the craft emerges or comes on scene, they always use that cicada droning as like a sound bite for UFOs. And I'll say it is kind of ringing true for me right now. Just the constant like wah 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 of the cicadas is sort of familiar.
Well, you know what? They're going back underground here soon. We don't have cicadas here. We don't have lightning bugs here. It's kind of boring here. It's
That's
almost
okay.
mosquito. The good part about the rain is it's keeping the mosquitoes away right now because it's raining so hard. But I know they're coming. I know they're coming.
Get ready.
Oh, I hear you. I totally hear you. All right. Big news out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, where your mentor, my mentor, Grant Cameron, sent out a little bit of a press release to the UFO media here that he was going to be doing something special with his work. After 50 years of research, he's going to put it out for free online. Now, one of the bones I have to pick about this story is the fact that I believe it was the University of Winnipeg or University of Manitoba refused to take his work. And you know what? If anybody in Canada deserves to have their work put in a university for future learning of the history of the people involved in everything ufology, because this subject will explode, it was Grant. They did it for Stanton Friedman in New Brunswick at the University of New Brunswick. What idiocy by this university, Nicole. Absolute idiocy.
I agree with the idiocy part. Maybe I can unpack it a little bit to where it makes sense since you brought up Stanton. I know Grant was able to go to New Brunswick and he spent 2 days there and was only able to photograph like 5 or 6 boxes worth of documents and papers from Stanton's archive. And that was 5 or 6 boxes, like law boxes, rectangles. Out of, I think there were 4 pallets of Stanton stuff. That's so much that I know that New Brunswick gave sort of a 9-year ETA on even being able to organize it, to be able to document it properly, and to be able to display it. Obviously, that's the end goal. So I think maybe University of Manitoba had sort of thought about the same thing. A collection that size and somebody's work might be more than their resources can handle. The weirder part is lots of people reach out to Grant and they either need help, digging in documents or want to know some history. Well, so many people over the years have reached out to Grant to help him digitize his archives, or I know like Rice University formed their Archives of the Impossible, and lots of ufologists' work have found their way to that archive. And I know early on they had asked me to approach Grant about getting his work into that archive. And I think he was all for it, just like sharing it with David Marler or the archive in Sweden. I know Grant has been more than generous and copied anything that he could or anything that he already had digitized and sent on. But the Archives of the Impossible kind of made it sound that they didn't want Grant's work either. And I know Rice University is linked to University of Manitoba. So maybe there's a bigger story at hand, or maybe they just have too much already and don't have the resources for it.
I understand with what you're saying, and I understand that budgetary needs are tight sometimes for universities, especially when they get, a plethora of paperwork and documents regarding this subject. I think, though, the fact that Grant used to work there, that he had the university's best interest at heart, that I believe he's at University of Winnipeg, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, but yet the University of Manitoba
Yeah,
was
you're right. It's the University of Manitoba.
okay. Well, there's two universities there, and I get them
Mhm.
confused. The other university where Chris Rutkowski used to work, they're taking his files.
Mhm.
I don't get it. I mean, I think there's someone there, and maybe I'm being conspiratorial here because you know me, I wear a lot of tinfoil. Okay, but I think I think the university is missing out here, and there's probably somebody there who, looks like an accountant, who is very stuck up about this subject and doesn't want to have any part of it or have the university tied to it. And I think that is a huge mistake. That is very, very shallow thinking. And maybe I'm just being defensive because, I mean, much like you, I love Grant Cameron. He's a hero and mentor of mine. He helped really build me as a person in this, and I owe him a lot. I really do. But I just think he got screwed on this one. I really do.
I think so too, but I mean, I know maybe also they were looking for a complete archive already, and so much of Grant's hasn't been digitized yet. So maybe they'll reconsider their offer in the future. And yeah, maybe it is because they truly don't know how to classify his work at this point. You mentioned Chris Rakowski. I think you enjoy his work just as much as I do, and you know him a little bit behind the scenes and know his personality and that he can joke. But his work is very much nuts and bolts and cases, and Grant's is not only about cases and nuts and bolts, but it encompasses more of the high strangeness. So maybe that's why they're having a difficult time deciding where it could go. I think, and I just, I think this way, I think his work should be in everybody's archives, which was sort of his thinking too. Anybody who asked, he would send them, what he already had copies of and went about it that way. So I think what we'll find out is instead of a situation that's very limited, like Stanton's, being in New Brunswick, like, I don't know, you could do a poll. Has anybody in the audience been to New Brunswick to visit Stanton's work? It kind of sucks that it's stuck there and limited and not displayed properly yet. Is there ever going to be a time where people make a pilgrimage there like they do the archive at Roswell during the Roswell Festival? Like, I don't know. And I think in the long run, that'll hurt Stanton's work. But maybe in the end game, Grant Cameron's work will be global. It'll be everywhere. So,
Well, and that's something that we do have to put out there. The good news about these files not going to the university is that Grant is putting them online where they will be forever, that anybody can have access to them for their research, for the history and everything. And this is where I do commend Grant for doing this. He is taking the time while he can to put all of his documents online. The originals will be shredded. I believe that's what he's doing, or throwing them out, which I don't know if I agree with that part.
he's not, don't fall for that joke. He's not shredding anything. Like,
But I think that I think, though, that the fact that he cares so much about the people, it doesn't matter whether you are the giant fan of Grant Cameron like you and I are, or whether you're one of his biggest critics. The fact that he is doing this for everybody who's ever studied ufology and those who are coming in the future, that it will be there for free. I think it will be perfect when it's done. I really do.
Right. Well, I think over the last couple weeks, wasn't it Dr. Greer sort of released uh, Disclosure Project archives, but it's behind a donation wall or a paywall at this point. So a little bit different situation than that. But yeah, I think the idea is, knowing that Grant won't be around forever, at least his work, will be, and people can have access to it without having to bug like me or Desta for the next 30 years. People can get it themselves. So,
Oh,
and
I fully
Grant, he's constantly working. It's not like he's not generating new files or new work and things like that. So hopefully he's just a little more organized now and has a system.
Well, you know what? I think it's going to be great. And the fact that it goes way back to Wilbur Smith and it completes with what's going on today and what will happen, in the future of Grant's life and what he's documented. I mean, because like you said, Grant is always working. He doesn't take a day off. Like the UFOs and the consciousness aspect and every other rabbit hole he's gone down with this subject. He's got more work than time, and he loves every minute of it. That's what I love about him. I mean, Grant, even when he was having a health scare the last couple of years, he put all of his energy into positivity regarding this subject. He just loves it. And if all of us had that passion that Grant Cameron does, imagine what we could accomplish.
And now I think we would have disclosure already. So it's exciting.
Oh,
I know as well, Grant is constantly working. Even when he says he's taking a break, he's still working, whether it's interviewing people or keeping in touch with those sources and continuing their story or keeping up on their work that they're doing. Because, so many experiencers don't just talk about their work, they're also activists in some way, shape, or form, too. So it's not like you just interview people once, this. You end up establishing that relationship and building a friendship with them over time. And I will say it's been fun, like watching Grant go through this process of digitizing his archives, because I think he sort of had to teach himself how to do that, first of all. But then just like behind the scenes, him emailing stuff to me and other people, and it's like he's rediscovering his own treasure chest, which is kind of how I dig through the weird desk too. At this point, it's like there's so much that you don't exactly know what to do with yet, but it's important in some way, shape, or form. So then you get to revisit it. So Grant's been doing a lot of revisiting, and yeah, we've kicked up some old stuff and some good stuff, and it's always good to look at things through a different lens and after some time with a different perspective too. So,
And on that note, Nicole, I'm going to get you to hold on right there as we are going to continue the UFO report at UFO Court with Nicole Sackich tonight on the show. What's more important, Shag Harbor or another crash in Canada? Spaced Out Radio continues
This
right after
is
this.
Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
One second here, Nicole. My mind went blank. Oh, my goodness. You know, I bookmarked this and everything, and now I can't find it.
Oops.
Where is it here? And of course, I'm not going to be able to find it. Oh, this just pisses me off.
What are you looking for?
The second crash. There's 2 crashes. And I can't remember. The name of the second crash all of a sudden. And it happened right by Shag Harbor.
Shag Harbor 2.0.
Really PO'd. Really PO'd about this.
Shelburne.
What's that? Shelburne?
Yeah.
That's the one.
Well, you got to thank Lex Diaz in your chat room.
Thank you, Lex.
Thank you, Lex. Oh, he said it was on Vetted.
Yes.
I like Vetted. Have you had a chance to talk with
No,
Patrick?
I haven't talked to Patrick from Vetted yet.
I think he's super cool. I like him.
Sweet Robbie G. Maury Island was in Washington State, not Falcon Lake. Shelburne it is.
Yeah, I've never heard of Shelburne, so you'll get to educate me tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I was dropping some knowledge bombs about the Cape Girardeau crash last night.
Nice.
Yeah.
Were you spacing again?
No, actually, it was here in my house with some of my friends.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, kind of an impromptu gathering in the weird living room next to the weird desk. It's actually a game that like me and Joe Merja like to play with people when we're the only ufologist around. We like to bring up, some UFO history and see if we can get people talking. So yeah, I tried that angle last night and it worked out well. Then we tuned in and watched Spaced Out Radio for about 10 minutes and then I fell
Oh, a
asleep
whole 10,
and everybody left.
A whole 10.
Well,
Oh,
it was late.
They pushed it.
It was late. I had to kick people out of my house so I could go to bed. Hi, Doug Shelby.
He prefers the Doug Shelby.
Correct. The Doug Shelby. Hello.
The Doug Shelby. The.
Shaq Filet just dropped a hundo on you. What?
That's a Norwegian kroner. It's about $13.
That's all right. It's still
Thank you, Shaq.
impressive.
It's awesome. Thank you very much for the love, buddy. And thank you to T-Bone Times 2. Aloha Dave, Foxy Joe. Greatly appreciate it. All right, we got 23 seconds. Here we go. We're grounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder that if you've missed most of this show or others, you know our archives are always free, right? Any major podcast network like Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, or you can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Yeah. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Nicole Sackage is here for UFO Court, filling in for Courtney Marcassani, and Tim Gallaudet, who's becoming quite the poodle. I call him a poodle because they yap, okay, about UFOs. And I mean that with all due respect, but I'm trying to have some fun here because, oh, I'm sorry. Somebody was just saying in my ear, unprofessional. you know. So, anyways, one of the things that he stated was Canada. And in his conversation, in a podcast that he did, he was talking about Shag Harbor and the Shelburne case. Two separate crashes. And one of the things that Shelburne is it was a crash much like Shag Harbor. It's like a twin to it. Divers going into the water, seeing the craft, seeing the aliens, working on the craft, allegedly unprofessional. All right. Bogus.
Excrement.
Yes, this is where you get your UFO excrement right here, right? So, anyways, Chris Stiles, who is famous for his work on researching and writing about the Shag Harbor incident, has really taken on this case for, like, it's almost like another Roswell for Canada. That gives us two that we know of. But the important part about it was that it was catching the attention of the Americans looking into this story. That's what kind of intrigues me, Nicole, is the fact that Tim Gallaudet goes on a podcast, talks about how we have to look at all events, include not just Roswell or Kecksburg or any of the United States stuff, but we're also looking into events in Canada and researching that. In your opinion, because you've worked closely with the Canadian side and the U.S., does this really show that there is some sort of teaming up with trading information?
I don't know if it so much shows teaming up, but I know in the Canadian Education Initiative talks, there was focus on shared cases, like cases that involved the border between Canada and the US. Maybe some that, brought in like our Homeland Security or border patrol, things of those nature. So any kind of dual response, I guess, from Canada and the US on certain cases seemed to be important, or lend more credibility, or had more actions you could take, like FOIA side on both sides. You could FOIA on the US side and the Canadian side. So cases like that seemed important to them at the time. So maybe they know more at this point, or Tim Gallaudet knows more details, maybe. That could be interesting.
Well, the Canadian one deals with an unidentified submerged object, what we now classify as a USO, where Canadian divers saw the crash happen many people saw the crash happen. They go to investigate. They send divers into the water. And Lord knows in that area of Nova Scotia, I would not be diving in there. You know why?
Cold.
Oh, no. At that time of the year, really big great white sharks are seen there. And, fast forward just a couple years ago, I was watching a video in one of the coves around Shag Harbor where there was a 20-foot great white caught on camera. I'm not diving there.
No, thanks.
I'm not
Well-
even diving in a lake because all water is connected. And you never know when a great white all of a sudden pops through one of those streams, okay, and into
Oh.
your favorite lake.
Was it a month or two ago when I was covering for Courtney traveling, and it seemed like the whole narrative had sort of steered towards drones and underwater UFOs. And I kind of went on a little rant. I'm like, well, isn't that great? Because if we're steering this whole conversation towards underwater UFOs, I can't go out in the middle of the ocean and do field work the same way I can sit, in a field and watch the sky all night long. So I think that part of the narrative scares me a little bit. I like how we started really acknowledging that crafts were transmedium. So I don't want to start like compartmentalizing them again as like this one goes in the air and this one is underwater. So I still want to be cautious in that sense. But yeah, and I think that speaks to Tim's background, obviously being in the Navy, and he probably knows more about what we have than, the average citizen does. So I'm sure that's just sort of his entry into the world that he knows. So hopefully he can help us get some answers. But I thought you were going to bring up this call to attention that maybe his family has been experiencing poltergeist activity.
Well, I was going to. I was actually going to, because your favorite writer in this subject, Stephen Greenstreet, was bringing up how Tim Gallaudet became very open with his daughter being a paranormal medium.
Right. And I think that's stunning, to some folks, even in our community, like stunning in the sense that of like Stephen Greer, he released his first movie Unacknowledged and then followed it up with the CE5 film. And everybody's like, what the heck is CE5? It sort of made everybody take pause. I think this is a moment with Tim. He kind of came out swinging, was a heavy hitter, putting his influence into the topic, and now we find out that there's sort of a family history. But, it's also very touchy when you're speaking about your family and your children in that sense. So I know it's a struggle that lots of experiencers go through, especially when they're dealing with their own children being involved in the high strangeness activity as well. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And one thing I did want to say about Tim Gallaudet coming out about his daughter being psychic, and I believe she was on the Dead Files television show as a medium there for one of their haunted house stories. I think that it's a great support, not only to UFOs, but to the community, that he did go public with his daughter's intuitiveness. We don't see a lot of that, Nicole, as you know, and you and I have talked many a time about, when are people going to start standing up? And I think Gallaudet coming out with his daughter being intuitive and that there is believable happenings in the paranormal and supernatural that have happened to him. I mean, he's a very well-respected person in Washington, D.C. So having that come out, I think it does benefit the entire storyline of what we are trying to do.
I think the benefit lies in the opportunity to be able to explain more of the high strangeness scenarios. We aren't just talking UFOs, and we're not just talking these maybe one-off scenarios of poltergeist activity. We've been talking about the hitchhiker effect. Some of us don't even like labeling it that. It's more of like a synchronicity, or what happens when multiple experiencers get together. It's sort of like maybe a rub off scenario or an activation, instead of like a hitchhiker or something following you, which I think it can be that as well. I just don't think it's only that. And so I think it's going to give us plenty of opportunity to be able to talk through these similarities and this sort of widened umbrella as to what the paranormal really is and what we're dealing with when we talk about high strangeness. So that'll be good discussions. And I think what we might come up against, and we've had this discussion several times, you and I, relating to experiencers, like what makes them cross a label, or cross into giving themselves a label, whether it's a contactee or a witness, or when you're talking about like psychic phenomenon or mediumship, where is that personal line where you decide that, yes, I'm a psychic, or yes, I'm a medium, or our friend Samantha Mowat can explain these different categories so well of like what makes you an empath, So I think it's very brave to, use labels and lingo that not everybody really is educated on. So we'll get those opportunities to have those conversations and talk this stuff out, because there's obviously something else to the phenomenon at play. So it's exciting.
It is exciting. One of the things that I don't want to continue on too much longer with Tim Gallaudet, but one of the things that he did say publicly is that he strongly feels that within the United States government, there have been individuals who have communicated with non-human intelligence. I mean, this just another name to add to the list of people that we hear about, saying that even though they're not going to name names, Nicole, which everybody hates, that there are people right now communicating with extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial, extratempestrial species not from here. And Gallaudet quoted, "I'm sure of it." I found that very interesting. You?
It is. I mean, especially since the hearings and Grush bringing NHI into the conversation, which that has led some of us to expand, back into the history. And I think Grant and I brought it up, even channeling AFA or AFA, and just knowing that different government entities were taking channeling seriously. And so what are you in contact with when you're channeling? Is it yourself? Is it another being? Is it what it claims to be? Like, is it something you've made up? Like, whatever that is, at different points, governments have taken that seriously. So that's where it also gets, a bit religious, where I say we talk about contact modalities, and even praying is a contact modality. So are Christians channeling the Holy Spirit or a certain angel or a saint, things like that? And that would be difficult for the government to come out, or any representative to come out and say something like that. So I think it's equally as heavy when they come out and, claim to be a psychic or a medium. So.
All right, we got a few minutes here to go. I got to get your opinion on this, because this is an eye roller for me. We all know the story about the Las Vegas alien incident, okay, that seemed to not be very true, shall we say. And we had people like Random Guy and his friends go look into it, and basically many others as well determined that it wasn't a tall 6.5 foot plus alien gray walking through. But this is a story all of a sudden, the last week or so, has caught on fire again.
Has it?
It's caught fire. It's all over social media with people now saying, this is true. This is true. Here's the video. And they're showing the blob squatch type photos of what is supposed to be the alien head looking at them and all kind of stuff. Do we really need to be doing this again?
No. That's my short answer. No, but I will say what is it? Maybe the 2-year anniversary of that, or the year?
It's a 1-year anniversary.
Yeah. So maybe it's just that, sort of resurgence is that it was a year ago. It's popping up in all the algorithms of, this is what you were doing last year, this time. So maybe it's just that. I haven't really heard anything else new on it. Like, I know for a while we were getting updates or statements from, I always called him the kid that actually made the report. So I don't know.
But certain times we just have to, let it go. Let it go.
True.
There's no alien to show. Let it go. Let it go. I'm trying to be poetic there.
I was hearing a little bit of Elsa from Frozen.
Yes.
Slightly.
That is my Elsa voice right there. What else are you working on in the UFO world right now?
Oh, well, aside from the Avery project, and just digging in with that, I've sort of stumbled across it. Well, and it's not even stumbled across, but with all the Jason Sands talk and Foxy's movie coming out, soon, and all this talk of programs, that's led me into like revisiting the gray box here at the Weird Desk and just trying to kick up obscure programs. And so while Courtney was on the road today, we were discussing one of those. And yeah, we actually got a pretty good lead and a tip. So we're chasing that down, and it has to deal with Air Force General, forget his, Curtis LeMay, which you can Google that name. Like, you want a impressive military career and somebody who's probably considered to be highly controversial. Yeah, Curtis.
What makes him controversial?
Oh, some of his political stances, but also he's one of these old timer generals. He pretty much, I think, led our strategy for the Pacific Theater in World War II. So little historic incidences like that throughout his career, but I think later on, when his career became more political, is where he becomes highly controversial for the times that he was in. We're talking about the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And he passed away in 1990. But knowing his impressive career and overlaying it with a little bit of UFO history and possible programs, like, that's where you kick up some interesting things. So, yeah.
Awesome.
To be continued on that. Hopefully Courtney can also pick up and throw in some knowledge on this too, because it's a joint effort.
Just a little tease. Why would this be important to today's ufology?
Well, like I mentioned, Jason Sands coming forward, he was talking about a possible program that he was involved in. James Fox's film, his new one, is called The Program. And I think that leads everybody to believe crash retrievals, and with the Wilson Davis notes, we want it to be crash retrievals. But I think what Courtney and I are discovering, and other people, I'm sure, is that we might not be talking about one program here, not just a crash retrieval program, but possibly others that involve ufology too. So whether that's maybe programs closer to MK Ultra, that's it's all out on the table. So
really spilling the beans right there, eh?
yeah. Well, that was you bring up MK Ultra, and that's nefarious. It was something done by our government to people that shouldn't have been happening. Well, usually one program isn't just one program, it continues in some way, shape, or form even after it closes. So Jason Sands kind of brought up a possibility of a time travel program, I think, and a crash retrieval program. And you keep following those lines, Grant brings up portals and the Mars jump room, and there's all sorts of avenues to pursue. We also talk about the real deal helmets and, pilots flying crafts, and, if there's a government program that involves these helmets or pilots being trained. So, yeah, that's what I'm hunting for.
Oh, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah.
See, that's kind of woo I love. That's kind of woo I love right there, because now you get into some deep, deep stuff, time travel and jump rooms and everything. That just makes me happy. Makes me happy. I don't know. I just love those topics.
I do too. Wonder if time traveling Todd Turner is in the audience tonight.
Well, yeah, where is Toddens? I haven't
Yeah,
seen
he's been
Toddens.
gone for a while. I haven't noticed him. Maybe he's in the future again.
Probably the time
Mhm.
traveler. All right. I'm going to have to say goodnight to you here, Nicole, but great job on doing the UFO court tonight. We very much appreciate you always stepping on in and making us look good. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LDAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X. Hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You remember this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night.
Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. That was beautiful. Beautiful.
Ooh.
Good job.
I hope I made sense. I'm really tired.
I know you are. I get to meet my new boss tomorrow.
Oh. You gonna wear a tie?
What's that?
You gonna wear a tie?
Oh, hell no. I walked into work like this today.
Woo!
Yeah. Nope. Get to meet the new boss tomorrow. So let's see how that goes.
Get there early. Be a little early. Look nice.
I'm doing everything the same.
Bring in some donuts.
I'm 17 years in. I'm doing everything the same.
I know. You're like the concrete floor of the building.
Pretty much.
Right?
Pretty much. I got to see if this guy's got any woo. Because if he has any woo, I know my job is safe. Can't fire me. You got woo.
Now, is that it? Let's ask that in a serious vein. Like, okay, new boss, new owner.
Mhm.
Do you think if you were full, like you're out of the woo closet, do you think there's a possibility he could have a problem with that? And you
Yeah.
could face like ridicule or pushback or lose your position? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. As shitty as that sounds,
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen though. I'm pretty good at what I do.
It's a risk though that you're willing to take. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I am willing to take it, because I do this on my time and not their time. Right?
Yeah, true that. Except when I call you at work and I'm like, sell me some tires so we can talk UFOs.
What kind of rims you want? I don't know.
Is Polly Walnut staying or is he moving on?
Polly Squirrel Nuts. He retired a while ago.
He
So
buried his nuts for the last time.
yeah. Yep.
I think I knew that. Yep. I think I knew he left.
Yes. Yeah. Love him. He pops into our chat room every now and again. He goes to bed at like 7 o'clock though. But he's one of these early risers and gets up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning.
I'm one of those. If I'm not up that late, I get up that early. So oh, what else is going on? SCU is SCU happening right now?
I don't even know. I don't pay attention.
And then contact starts Monday. Is that how that goes?
Yeah.
I thought Courtney was getting there pretty early, but she's meeting friends before it starts. So I'm impressed with Courtney's vehicle, by the way. Traversing all over.
1,004 kilometer or miles on it before she finishes.
Well, I've seen it. I've seen this beast that she drives, and I can say that probably herself and maybe a woman like me, we're totally fine with vehicles like that, but they're not made for everybody, I will say. And I'm impressed that her vehicle's going all over the place the way that it is. I think it's magical, honestly. She must have some of the element 115 in her gas tank.
She's a trooper. That's for
It's
sure.
really cool though. I was telling her that that leg of the highway that she was on is kind of notorious for UFO sightings at night. And she was going through it during the day. So I told her she needed to pull over and wait till the sun went down, which I don't think she listened to me. But that stretch of highway that she was on is the one where you hear the mimic cases about the cigar-shaped UFOs, but they're not going horizontal. They're going like vertical.
Oh, wow.
And they mimic like the power lights or the power poles that you see off in the distance that have the red lights that flash. And they mimic that and they get real close to you doing that mimic. And then next thing you know, you've got a cigar-shaped UFO right outside your vehicle.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
That's
because
kind of cool.
you're driving and you see those things in the distance and you're like, oh, and you can kind of see where it's at based on how you're driving and they pass. Well, these like to trick people, and yeah, you think it's something off in the distance, but it's gradually getting closer and closer to you, and the next thing you know, it's in the middle of the road and you can't drive any further, or it's right next to you and you freak out because you're like, holy shit, that's
Oh,
crap.
my.
Yeah.
Where's that again?
It's part of the extraterrestrial highway, but it's probably that furthest west end of it as you're going into California.
Right.
So,
Right. Okay, I know exactly where you're talking about right now.
Yep.
I've done that drive.
It's like the 3-hour nothingness stretch of nothingness, that one.
Yep.
Hmm. So yeah, you can imagine that, in the middle of the night, how black the desert is. And yeah, you can picture that even now, the red flashers off in the distance. And then, yeah, imagine one getting close to you. Like, ooh, here I am.
Right?
I don't know. Would you punch it and just drive as fast as you could? Or do you think you'd pull over and like do that whole scenario? I think
I
it's
don't know
50
anymore.
50 of what I hear. Like,
I don't know anymore. I'd like to think I would stop and, go knock and see if they need some gas or maybe a jump start or something. Right? Because it
I
is a
don't know.
dangerous area.
I think you don't go unless you're invited. Is that the rule of thumb, I think?
Well,
Unless they drop down the ramp.
they drop down that ramp. I'm running in because I'm going to say,
Drop down the ramp.
honestly, my turn to fly this bitch. Let's go.
Honestly, like in Star Wars, when the Jedi are escaping, they always like pull the craft around and drop the ramp, and the Jedi jumps up. That's what I want to do. I will jump into the air if they just open the ramp while they're doing a flyby.
Mm-hmm. Unprofessional.
Unprofessional. You're having too much fun.
Excrement.
There's no fun in ufology. Got to be a professional.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't checked out that scenario in a couple weeks, so still going strong.
Nothing.
You called Green Street my favorite writer.
I did. I thought it was funny. I'm that guy right now. Totally that guy.
Does he write?
Yeah.
I guess.
He works for the New York Post. Of course he writes.
Well, I know, but I thought you were meaning like X posts or something. That's kind of, it's micro writing. But no, I appreciate his style. But yeah, I just laugh. I'm tired of defending Green Street's point of view. I don't have to.
His
But yeah.
mustache defends him enough.
He goes
he
through
does
some
have
styles. Yeah.
He does have a nice mustache. I will say this.
Mhm. That mustache paired with Nick Pope's, awesomeness. That
Or
was
Joe
a
Mercer.
lot of hair.
If you put Green Street with Nick Pope's hair and him and Joe Mercia ever butted heads, you'd never get them apart.
In my hair fantasy land, we have Nick Pope, Joe Mercia, and Giorgio Tsoukalos. And the aliens somehow make a hybrid of all three of their hair on an alien gray head. Giorgio's hair is my favorite. I would run away with his hair in an instant.
I think most of us would.
Just the hair, like his beautiful wife can have the rest of them. I just want to talk UFOs with the hairstyle.
On that note, I'm going to quickly finish editing here and then say goodnight to everybody.
Yeah.
Because I have to download or upload all this stuff. But Nicole, thank you for being here tonight. We'll let you get to bed finally.
Back to bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I'll be back Friday. I'll cover Friday if I have to.
All
and
right.
Court will give us a full report.
We'll see you Friday.
All right. Bye, space travelers.
All right. Thank you tonight to T-Bone ×2, Shaq Filet, Foxy Joe, and Aloha Dave for the super chats. Tomorrow night on the show. Who's here? Hold on. I'm in May. Yeah, I'm in May. Hold on. Where am I? Varla's back. It's a Varla night tomorrow night, so you know it's going to be fun. You know it's going to be good. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Have a good one.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.